Hi, I am IK. Welcome to Provider Wraps app. Provider Wraps app. Let's go to see. This is React Redux application without Tank because we use only data what residence in state in our memory, not in hard embedded some server outside of React. Data is of React directly and stay in memory of our browser. And when we close application, there is no data. Here is React Redux. Here is React Redux Tank. Data coming from mock server. They stay in state, but also stay in mock server, but must be in state. It is working condition from server coming in state. Here, if there is no data in server, from what coming data? Data coming first initial state, look at two second post, second first post, and coming from initial state, and what we add. Post 3, author, comments, save post. And look at third post through. And when I refresh it, or close, refresh, there is no post 3, only 2 post initial post. It means initial post coming from post slice. Post slice is configuration file of Redux, where we have connection between React and Redux. But before that, here, if we have also, we have data from mock server. And when I click here and enter something here, save post, it would be third post. And when I refresh, I have post 3 here again, because when I add post 3, that post 3 go to mock server, hard remembering, and come back to browser, to client, where we code immutable update of our post list. We look at the list here on the screen, but also there is embedded, hard embed our data on mock server. But this, what we see on the screen, coming from state, Redux state. Always what we see on the screen, always coming from state, it is actual document object model. Okay, we have two React Redux application. Here is one, here is second, but one of them, this one, use Tank because use mock server. This one don't use mock server and don't need Tank, don't need middleware. what the data? Use this one. Use data what we generate in our, what we add, what we update, delete, add here in this add new post form. And when we close application or refresh, data disappear from our memory, from memory of our computer. This part is the same, import is the same for React Redux and for React Redux Tang. We must import same thing. We must import that, of course, if but it is basic import what we must have. And here in Tang 1, we have, look at here, provider wraps around app. And here is the store properties of provider element. Element provider coming from, it is a React element coming from package React Redux. What is for expected, because provider, we look wraps up our root components. And what we have on the app, we look at in app.js, look at, we have add post form and post list. Add post form and post list. And we see that it is a home page. It is very, very simple thing. We don't have links in this application, and we don't need a router, any router, not and router 6. I work with router 6, and I don't need here import router. It is Tang 1 application. Look at Tang 1 application. There is a add form app and post list and post list. Look at here, we need how coming in post list, how coming this post. They coming from mock server. Of course, there is an initial state, and the state coming after initial state coming from mock server, and that data from mock server go together with initial state. Let's go to look post list to see, but in this to see post list in Tang, post list, a post list, here it is. We have a use selector. It is a subscription to state, store state, to Redux. And this declaration of state post equal user selector hook, what listening, it is listener of state. And select all post is in a post slice, that post slice. Here is a select all post equal state post. And we take that state post. We are in post slice. We can look at what it is, what is initial state. Here it is, initial state. And After fetch post, we must look in extra reducer for fetch post. It is pending and fulfilled. Look at in fulfilled. It is concat data from mock server concat with data initial state. You look at. And we see what we see. Then now we will see what is initial state and how many rendering we have. F12, press button type F12 in keyboard and look at console. 1, 2, 3 times we have rendered. Component post list, 3 times rendered before we see what we see now. Let's get back to here. Here we look at in console post state, post status, and error. First, post was empty in initial state. Look at initial state. Initial state we can look in post slice. Post empty, status idle, error null. Empty, idle, error null. Let's go to see. Idle, empty, array empty, idle, null. It is first rendering. Second rendering. Post list. It is post list. And rendering, complete first rendering. And we see what initial. In first rendering, we have initial state, what we code in post slice. It is post slice, and the initial state, what we code there, is a response for first rendering. Complete component posts list. And when we go down, we see use effect. After rendering, complete finished rendered post list, we have event component did mount. And that event start use effect. That event activate call use effect. And the use effect with the 2 parameters. For us now it's interesting, this first parameter. It is arrow function, and in the body of arrow function, we have logical left side idle, it is true. Initial state status is idle. And here dispatch fetch post is also true. We have, and we have dispatch. Happen dispatch of fetch post. Dispatch fetch post. Dispatch tanh function fetch post to store, Redux store. Because dispatch is method of store. Let's go, what do fetch post? Fetch post is in post slice because tanh function is connected, is about Redux. Redux don't understand the asynchronous process, and fetch post is here that asynchronous process. From asynchronous process, we can set convert in synchron that understand Redux. And fetch post produce to dispatch. Because of that, we have 3 dispatch. Here is a 2 dispatch. Let's go to C. Fetch post. What is the first? What is the reason for first? It is fetch post. This fetch post and this activation of dispatch, this fetch post, is a reason for a two rendering. What is the reason for first rendering? A reason for first rendering is, let's go to see app.js. Here it is. App.js is called here index.js. Index.js is called here index.html. And index.js is called, this code means calling, activate component app. Call component app get rendered. It is calling for rendered. Right like this here. It is a React element ready for rendering, and it is called code. It is code. Who call it? Index.js. Index.js render it and must render it, activate for a rendered app. App.js component. During rendering, first rendering child to child, and after that rendering up, and after that it is 3 rendering. After that 3 render, we see what we see on the screen. But here is a rendering. During this rendering, this post list rendering, 3 times. First times is this. Here is a calling for a rendering. And this render, and what see initial state. In this first rendered, see initial state, and principle is post slice, because in must be before we can see anything on the screen. Must be application ready for use, for interaction of users with. If to be ready, must have React Redux Connect by provider. Must have, it means that must have store, must have state, okay, it is initial state. Must have reducer. All is ready. It is first time, and the second time, after first rendering, we have component did mount, and that event activate use effect, and use effect dispatch fetch post action creator fetch post tank function. And tank function always dispatch two reducer, two changes of state. First is pending. What we write post status loading. Pending exists. Pending is first action. It is a starting promise in that asynchron process, and we must wait that asynchron process finished. That asynchron process can finish okay or with error. If finished with okay, we have a second dispatch. Dispatch succeeded, fulfilled, post status succeeded. Because post status is state. Every changes of state means rendering. Post status is a state, and first initial value is initial state. Initial value is post status idle, equal idle. When start fetch post immediately start promise, and we start post, and we change post status to loading, that we can show in our user interface some animation of waiting, loading, and after this is moment post status loading, second rendering. We have a rendering because Tang functions dispatch that action. Action is pending, and payload is post status equal succeeded. Post status, we write that post status equal loading in that moment, and it is payload. Post is empty, error is null, but post status is loading. And after some time, when promise finished the communication, that process finished with failed or succeed. If succeed, we said that if succeed or fulfilled, we said post status is succeed, and it is again, we change post status, but this time we have changed also post array, not empty. And in the third rendering, we see post also, but we see post status changes. Error all time, error is null. Let's go to see where happening. It is post slice. Here is the post slice. We should see initial value, initial state, but export. Here is fetch post. Here is a string for action type. And here is a payload. And the first payload is pending. It is loading status, post status loading. Second is succeed or fulfilled or failed. And we have error, but if it is fulfilled, it is okay. We have post also changed. Let's go to see this is connected with extra reducers. With extra reducers, and here it is, pending, fetch post pending. Here is a loading, state status loading, we write immediately. Immediately after fetch post is calling, we have loading. State post status is loading. But if fulfilled, state status is succeeded. And the concat payload, it is from mock server coming array of post, concat with the initial state. Concat post was empty array. Now concat with the not empty array. Can be, but not empty array. And we have empty array plus a new array from coming array from mock server. We have some array, not empty. And we write here state status succeeded. We can, for state status, we can write what we want, but what have reason. Here is a reason that starting loading process were pending. Immediately after start function, we can write loading, state status loading, and because of that component who are subscribe will see that post status loading. If post status equal loading, we can have some animation of loading, and it is state. And the subscribed component depend about that state, looking, listening, changes, and here, when it is succeeded, post status is succeeded, and happen all this concat payload. And never here write again load, idle. Here, I don't write idle, because if we have idle, we have again dispatch. And because of that, we have only one dispatch, because we never write idle, never. Succeeded, loading, succeeded, failed. If we nothing write here, it will be state from before. And look at state status failed. Never idle, and because never idle, this logic is post list. This logic, post status equal idle, is true only in first rendering. Let's go to see here. Here it is. First rendering, second rendering, third rendering. First rendering is app.js component calling in index.js. That app, there is a child post list, and add the new form, add post form, and post list, and add new form, render it, and post list, render it. It is calling for rendering after rendered 3 times. First time initial value, idle null. Second time loading, array empty, loading null. And third time succeeded, post status succeeded, error null, and array there is a three post inside. Here is array empty, idle null. It is first rendering, component post list. Second is array null, loading. It is fetch post tank started. Promise started. Pending is first immediately starting. It is, we call it status loading, and error null. And the third time succeeded. Error null, but array, there is a 3 post inside it. Right, you see post list 40, 42, 44. Again, 40, 42, 44. Again, 40, it is 3 times rendering. Here is post list, and you look at 40 console. Here is a 40, console 42 is console for post status, 44 console for error. 3 times we see three times rendering before we see post list on the screen. Here is, now look at, it was tank, but look at in application 454 and the index JS. Here we have a lot of links. Every links is every root is self-closed. Look at here, self-closed. It's self-closed root. And it is list of links. And it is index.js. And we call home that root in router 6 root have index properties. And index properties, what we see like home page, what we see when first call website, when first call address of a website. And in that moment, we will see home page, and it is called index in root, and element equal, what element would we see? We see add post form and post list, same as in Tank application, React Redux Tank application, add post and post list. And it is self-closed, and it is finished of this root. This root is a React element. This is Tank application. Here is 454. Also, we have add new post up and post list down. Difference is what we don't need Tank because all data is in React and React own take care about data. We don't need get data from a mock server from outside. And add new post is up, and list post list. It is like here. Okay. Here we have a view post, and here we have immediately update post. Here we have view post, single post, etc. But what here is important is that provider wrap up also and call up. It is all this is a call, and here is a call. All this must be rendered, and we have for index for home page at first must be rendered add post form, post list, it is child of up. How we know that? How we call that? We call that not self-closed. Root not self-closed here, but closed here. This root, look at root, yes. And this root, close down here. It is closed of root, what I spoke about. There is no, all inside root is child root of this root. And that child root is self-closed. Root, only one root can have properties index. And it is root what we see on when first opening a website. It is, we will see up, always must be up, because all this lay on the up, happening on the up. Up is a root component, basic component for all other components. But only one root have index and element equal. What we see? We see add post form and post list. And this moment, it means first render it child, post list, add post form, and we can go to look post list, what happened here, and how many rendering there is here happen. Let's go to see here. Home. F12. I forgot right here console log. Here is our state, what would be generating first rendering, and equal use selector, because state is initial state is created by post slice, and it is two post created in post slice. Here it is post slice. You look at initial state, this square brackets means array, and in that array we have two object, two post, and this is post slice, and it is created first in first rendering. We can go to here and look at here, and look at what we see. Refresh. We see here two post list 10. Here it is post list 10, post list 10. Here it is console log of post, and we see this two post ID title, first post, second post, and all other. Here it is. It is initial state. It means there is only one rendering, and not more than one rendering, and we see what we see. because it's coming from initial state and nothing after that. Let's go to post list. Nothing after that. Dispatch, sort, rendering. There is no fetch post, etc. Nothing, only that. And if you can see bigger this state, initial state. Here is post list .js 10, and here is array with the two posts. Here it is. First array is title, first post, title, second post, second, etc. It is only one rendering here. Now we go to code, post list, 454, post list. Yeah, there is nothing more here. There is only this. And when I add post, update, delete, all that use selector listener of state would be C and call component to re-render it. But who send changes to state? Dispatch. Use dispatch hook or function is for create a dispatch or dispatch method. What we send, by what we send. Here is a declaration of method dispatch by use dispatch hook. And after that, we have method and we dispatch, look at dispatch here, dispatch post delete, post delete, use selector. Okay, we must go to add post, add post 4. Here is add post 4. When I use add post form, I will have dispatch post edit. Dispatch post edit is action creator, and it is reducer in post slice. Look at in post slice. There is a lot of component. Post slice is here, and post slice there is a reducers, and the tank. When we use tank, we have extra reducer, and the post edit. Here it is, post edit. Reducer state is original state, and the action is what I send. Payload E and the action type. Action type said what happened, what will do with payload. What will do with payload would be push to state. But here is we write directly state.push, but in the background there is a IMER library, and that IMER library will copy state, and to that copy push action payload. It is for all others reducer. Here is a reducer in reducers, and in when using Tank, when we must go out to mock server, we have extra reducer. How we have initial state? By subscriber. Use dispatch. Use selector. How we have changes of state? By reducer. By method dispatch. Use dispatch and use selector, a hooks or method or function who give us a possibility to use redux. Use selector, listening, use selector, post list, use selector, listening changes of state, and use dispatch, listening, here, dispatch method, here it is, dispatch, listening in this moment, listening, did we click delete button or listening in add comment, add post form, listening here, listening post add. That's happened post add. Do we click post add? And first rendering, post slice. In first rendering, we have creation of React and Redux. We have provider in index.js. Provider wraps up, and up there is all other components like child or grandchild. And what we see by address, if we see website address, we will see homepage. Homepage here is created in 454. Is created by router 6 and router what calling up not closed. He wraps around all other component, all other router, but in a Tank, router in a Tank, we don't need router in Tank because there is only calling up, it is index.js calling up, and up there is to add post form and post list, and get head rendering of these two components, and after that parent component add, and after all that we see on the screen what we see. If you mean that some of your friends and this video would be interesting, or this playlist would be interesting, say then, spoke about that on your social network. If you like, comment this video, comment, subscribe, like, and engage. Your engagement is price to me. It would be feedback for me. And growing, your engagement means growing of our community around this video, and all we better learning. But sharing is important. If you like it, share it. Share it. Share it We live in economy of sharing, economy of sharing. Destiny of this video, of playlist, of my work, is depend about sharing, your sharing. Thank you for watching this video. See you next time.